What's happening, everybody? It's your man Dave D, NYDC. Man, it's Wednesday. It's the day after the election. I don't know what's going on. We still counting ballots or something. We got the ghost in the machine, gremlins. Really threw off our schedule, but I apologize. We started a little bit late. We had to do a quick change, but I want to thank you for joining us tonight. And if you are, you know, uh, in the woods, I see some people are starting to I see you in the woods jumping over, and thank you. Again, I apologize for the inconvenience. But tonight, going to be rocking with a sister that's really doing some great work and doing some great things. And man, she's really doing it in a different light, in a different manner, if you will, than most. And I know I mentioned the elections, and I know some of us, certain groups of our country, may be dealing with some type of anxiety, stress, and tonight we're going to have a consultant that's going to come on and really work with us and work through some challenges and things uh, in a special way. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring to the other mic tonight's guest, the amazing Coach Q, Quiche Fletcher. Quiche, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, look, I'm excited to have you. Like I said, we had a little problem, but we gonna keep pressing on because I mean, really, that's really part of what you do and helping others. Press on and continue on. But before we really dive into exactly what it is that you do, I want to allow you to take a moment, Coach Q, and give us some background about who you are, where you from, and how you got into the lane, if you will, that you're doing to uplift others in our community.
That is perfect. So, little backstory from a young age, all I wanted to do was be a doctor. That was like, you couldn't tell me any different from the age of 4. So, my parents were fantastic, put me in extra classes, did all the things. When I went to college, I had the unique opportunity to job shadow in a hospital. And that quickly opened my eyes to how heavily focused we are on pharmaceuticals here in the US. And that didn't really sit with me because, in my eyes, I really just wanted to like heal people,
Mm,
make them better versus just, oh, your back hurts. Here's a piece of paper. Here's a script. Go take this. So it really took me about an entire semester to decide that I didn't want to do that. I really fell into this place of, I like to call it my identity crisis. I had no idea who I was, what I wanted to do, and I really just had to try and figure that out. Fast forward the tape, I started climbing the corporate ladder like a lot of us do, right? Like we're taught, go
mm-hmm.
out here, get a good job, do all these things. But there was an element to it that was like, I was good at my job, I was making the money, but on the inside, something just was off. I was super unhappy, crazy anxiety and depression, so much so that I asked myself one day, what is the point of being here?
Mm,
And that is like a scary place to be in. And I really just had to sit with myself to honestly make a decision. And what I came up with was there's no way we were all put on this earth to just work, pay bills, and die. It's
right.
like that would be absolutely insane. Well, what would be the point of having a planet? So I really started to just dig a little deeper to figure out why I was in this space. And then COVID rolled in to
Mm,
town and shut everything down. So that was like a major thing for most people, as you remember. And that literally woke me up. And it helped me see that I didn't have choices in my life. Like I was very, very grateful to still have my job to be able to like afford things. But at the same time, I didn't have choices. Like we didn't know what was going on. People were dying. Like it was like, as you remember, a crazy time. And so
yeah.
I had to go out into this unknown if I wanted to sustain my life. So what I told myself was like, you have zero control over
Mm,
what's going on in your life right now. So what are you going to do to sort of take that back? So I started my first coaching business.
right.
I was helping people to manage stress and anxiety and absolutely loved it. And then as I sort of went through the year, I realized this job does not serve me and it's putting me more in a bad spot than
Mm,
anything else. So I literally quit my job, moved back to my home state, and started coaching full time. But at the time, the way I went about coaching was really from a standpoint of just making money. And like, yes, when you have a business, you want to make money, but there has to be an element of serving people. So that put me in a space to where I felt like I left a job to own a job. And really just hit that same wall. So I convinced myself, get a job temporarily so you can figure out what you want to do, and then you can step back into working for yourself. Well, temporarily turned into 2 years. And I hit the same wall to where I was super unhappy and just, I really had to take a step back. Like, yes, I think ideally for me, working for others is not where it's at, but there was something else underlying. And what I realized is I was not doing anything that was fun for me. Right. I wasn't going out with friends. I wasn't doing hobbies, nothing. So I told myself, go do something you enjoy. You don't have to monetize it. It doesn't have to mean anything. Just go do it. And then I ended up getting my personal training certification and my nutrition certification. And that turned me on to health coaching because that's something that's always interested me. But the big part for me is always wanting to help people overcome something that they always struggle with, right? Like you can get health coaching anywhere, but there's always an element to where people yo-yo diet or you lose the weight and you gain it back. So I decided to put in an element of mindset coaching to help them understand why you're doing this and why it is that we can't stick with it. So nutshell version of that story is I put together a small program and was looking just to see what results I could get for people. But what came from it was absolutely phenomenal. I had a girl that was in a similar space to me, poor physical and mental health, didn't like her job. At the end of the program, she hit all of her goals, ended up quitting her job, starting her own business. And now she's at the point to where she's needing to hire employees. So completely blew my mind. And so I say all that to say what I do now is I teach people to really just design their own life. And how I do that is teaching you how to put yourself first. And how I do that is by teaching you what self-care is and what it is not. And that there are multiple facets to it. But the big piece that I focus on is the health piece, because if you've ever been really, really sick in your life, the only thing you can think about is getting better. That's really where I start. And that is what I do.
You know, that it is so interesting when you talk about that. And like we talked about with, you know, the election, right? That's a real stressor. And I watched it, like so many other Americans, and jumped on a couple of different feeds just to kind of see what people were saying, just the anxiety of it all, really affects people. And, what role, because I mean, we were talking about like mental health and like eating, right? That's a coping mechanism for so many people. So like now that we've had this, I don't want to say what do you find, but do you think that, that's a trigger for so many people? And if it is a trigger, like how would you be able to, or how would you suggest someone work through that, to kind of get to a normal balance, if you will, moving forward?
I thought this was kind of funny today as I was like going through my day. I was like, this was a perfect day.
Yes. Yep.
Because depending on what side you're on or not, like I'm not here to like talk about like the politics of it all, but there are certain groups of people who are not okay today. And I've talked to several friends that are literally struggling. And for me, like I have my own thoughts and beliefs about things, but like it's very interesting because I walked around, I've had a smile on my face all day. I've had a great day despite what happened in our country. And the people that are coming to me, it really just had me take a step back to say, okay, like other people are truly struggling with this. And like my biggest thing that I told my friend today was, what is it that you can control in the situation? Like you literally have to ask yourself that. Did you do your research? Did you actually go and like exercise your right to vote? Did you do all that you could? And if you did, there is absolutely nothing that you can control.
Right.
And so the big part is making sure that when you are feeling this way, whether it's from the election, whether it's from things going on in your life, your job, what have you, you really have to take a step back and take care of yourself. So if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling just rattled because we just had daylight savings time, like there's a lot of
things going on.
Yeah, they're really, really going on. So we really have to take a step back. For instance, for myself, I know during daylight savings time, I'm tired. There doesn't have to be a reason. I'm just literally tired. So I usually incorporate in my week time for me to rest. It may not be
Mm,
sleep, but
mhm.
if I feel like just kicking my feet up on the couch and watching TV, I do that because it's rejuvenating for me
Right.
and also your mind, because
Okay.
that is the part that gets the best of us is our mind. So I
Mm,
just tell people take a step back and do something that makes you feel good and understand that we can't control everything. And if we can't, what is going to come from you being super anxious
mm, mm.
about the situation? And I told my friend today, I said, honestly, February is the time to pay attention because that's when everything sort of changes over from the election. Like, yes, we have a
Yeah.
president.
Yeah.
February is when it really starts. And I said, so just live. Like, we have the holidays coming up. That's always a fun time. Like,
Right.
we get to be with family and friends. And so we don't really need to react
Right.
until there's something to react to.
Mm. I love that, and I want to ask because I do notice, like you say, like the mental health part, the and I can only speak about myself, and like daylight savings time, and uh, just the whole change, and I'm curious to know from your standpoint and your view, working with people, men and women seem to be different. And again, I can only speak to myself because I understand what you're saying. Like I watch my wife, the season change. She seems to be more tired, more lethargic. Her mind, as I've come to know her, we've been together 30 years. Her mind is constantly going. It's like her mind never shuts down. With me, daylight savings doesn't bother me. I keep on going. When I'm tired, though, everybody knows me. Look, when I tell you I'm tired, I'm going to sleep and I'm going to wake up just the same. But men and women have that different balance, and I understand too. Like women with the hormones and giving life and all of these different things. But is that something that you notice where men and women are just like polar opposites when it comes to that whole change and that seasonal thing?
I mean, I think I ran into it on both sexes, I guess I can
Okay.
say, but I think it's really how in tune you are with the energies
Mm,
because it is an energy shift.
okay.
And for me, with past mental health issues, the sun, I like to say we're like plants. We
Okay.
need water, we need nourishment, we need the sun. And daylight savings time, unless you get up like crazy early in the morning and you're outside doing things, we don't get a lot of sun.
Right.
So that really messes with the rhythms and things in your body. So, like, yes, it could be partly hormonal and things like that, but I think it's really in tune with the energy. Like, if there's like the pressure changes in the air and different things, like, I feel all of that because I'm super in tune to the energy. So, like, I think it really just depends on, like, one, how connected you are, and two, just, I guess, how sensitive your particular body is to it.
Hmm. Hmm. I must be really, I don't know, because I am usually, well, my wife too, but I know I'm the more outside one, and I tell her that all the time. Like, babe, get up, come on, let's go outside. Like, you let that sun hit your body. It makes you. I know for me, it makes me feel great. I prefer to be outside. If I could be outside, even like now, like normally I'll be out on the deck smoking a cigar or something. I just like to be outside. So, and my wife is definitely not. She doesn't like the bugs. She does, so she's definitely more of an inside. But that makes sense. And you talked about something too, like, and if you don't mind, personally, like, you know, things that maybe happened to you that maybe were very transformative, for you to kind of evolve into where you are today. And was there anything significant or particular that happened, to you, that really helped you transform into, the coach Q that we're seeing today?
Yeah, as I mentioned in my story, it was really when I took a step back from myself, if you will, to be very introspective. And that's one of the big keys that I teach people. It's we have to figure out what's going on within us. And I think a lot of times we're like, oh, well, my neighbor doesn't feel this way, or, they say on TV we shouldn't feel this way. But if your like intuition, like your inner self is telling you something, we need to step back. And sometimes we are just too disconnected from it to hear it.
Mm,
And a good way to actually hear it and pay attention, your body and your emotions will tell you.
mm,
So for me, it was, why do I keep hitting this depressed wall? Why do I keep
mm,
hitting this unhappy space? Because like now I can say, like, I am a happy person.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Before I had happy moments. It was like depending on if the sun was shining that day or what happened
Wow.
to me or what have you. And now through and through, like I'm happy. And that's really what I want other people to experience. And for me, it was really stepping back to say, what is it that's making me feel this way? And
Hmm.
how can I let go of that? Because I didn't like it and I hated going to that spot every time. Because anyone who's going through crazy depression, you don't like it.
Right.
And
Right.
it's hard and it's very draining for your energy, even anxiety, right? That's like
Hmm.
something that everyone experiences. But if you experience it on a regular basis, it's like it becomes a normal. But
Yeah.
when you experience like not having it, it's like, can I feel like this all the time? So it was really just me stepping back to like listen to what my mind, body, and soul is telling me.
Mm. That's where I was really getting, what, if you could, what steps, because I think that's important for people to really understand, like, what steps did you take to really get yourself, mind, body, and everything in sync to a point to where, like you said, that feeling goes away, and this is normal or your new normal, and you can achieve and feel this way every day, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, yeah. So I won't throw a bunch of stuff at you because I feel like a lot of times when people want to shift, they get all this information and then you feel like you have to do it all at once. And that's why we don't really make it very far. So, like, one of the biggest things that I just mentioned was literally just recognizing, like, hey, I'm having these low vibrational or negative emotions. Recognize that you're having them.
Mm.
A journal can be your best friend. It doesn't have to be. I used to have a huge aversion to journaling because I thought it had to start with like, dear diary, this goes blah, 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 and sometimes it can just be bullet points. But when you are aware of something, write it down. Just write it down. Understand, like, okay, like I'm feeling this way. I don't know why yet, but write it down. And then the next thing, when it pops up again, really ask yourself, what is happening in this moment? And the moment may be this second, it could be this time frame in your life, what have you.
Hmm.
But what is it that's happening right now that's making me feel this way? And then once you start that, there's like so many things you could do, but it's really like self-care has like 8 spokes to the wheel. I
Uh-huh.
think a lot of times people think self-care is what I call the fluffy stuff. It's the massages, it's the bubble baths, it's all those things. And yes, those are a part of the self-care process, but there are a lot of things that like we don't want to do that
Mm.
are the main things we want to do with self-care. So one of the big ones is the physical piece. And a lot of us know it, but a lot of us have an aversion to it. So diet and exercise. And I know some of y'all are like, okay, here we go. So, so true because the things that you're feeding your body affect a lot of different things. So, like, a lot of the foods that we have today aren't actually food, if you want to ask me. Like, they're just processed
Mhm.
chemicals that
Right.
taste good. And I'm not saying I don't partake in those, but like, that's one of the reasons why our minds and chemicals and things are off in the body. Our bodies don't know what to do with that. So, for some of you that are like, I really struggle with like staying with this healthy diet,
Hmm.
it's not a diet. We should
Yeah.
be eating like the whole foods anyways. But a good tip that I give everyone is if you're struggling with eating a little bit healthier, just add more fruits and veggies. Don't change anything else. Just add more fruits and veggies, and you'll start to see a difference, and you will naturally start to sort of
True.
transition
True.
your diet. And as far as the movement goes, movement is so good for your mental health. It's so good for tons of things, right? But if you're like, I hate going to the gym. I hate doing this. I hate doing that. First of all, that's a mindset issue. Two, there are so many different ways that you can get movement in. If you do absolutely nothing now, go for a daily walk.
Right.
Super easy. You can do it anywhere. If you want to be inside, there's a treadmill. But like just as simple as a daily walk or versus taking the elevator, take the
Take the
stairs.
stairs. Yeah.
You're like, man, I got to go all the way up to the 10th floor. Ride the elevator to the 5th floor and then walk up 5. Like there are so many different ways. Just start incorporating different things into your daily life before you automatically think, okay, I got to go to the gym, lift all these weights, do all these crazy things. There's workout classes. YouTube is like, there's millions of videos of
True.
free workouts and all kinds of
True.
stuff. So just get creative. But that's one of the big things for me.
Mm. And I like in the piece that you talk about, just in that you really have two competing things. Um, you have the mindset part, and then the eating part,
Mhm.
which, you know, I know for me, the mindset is easier, but I like to. like I don't go to the gym, but like I like to walk. I walk a lot. Um, and every now and then I work out. Like I'll get with my wife, and we're goal setting,
Mhm.
and I could just change my eating. I could drop 20 pounds, while she's struggling to do 10. And when you find, like, when people are hitting that wall with the mindset, like, how do you, or are there certain things that they can do to kind of overcome that mindset? Because we don't like to lose, right?
Mhm.
Anytime we set a goal and it's not working, we get frustrated and we stop. Like, and I'm curious to know, because from somebody who's being supportive, what could I do to support that person or persons to continue on that journey when they get frustrated and want to stop?
That's a great question. So if you find yourself and you're like, I can't do this. This is so
Mm,
hard. Like that, you're literally going down the negative rabbit trail.
right.
First of all, you have to like be aware and acknowledge that you're
Mm,
doing that. Just like we talked about with the emotions. Like if you're not aware of it,
mm,
nothing's going to change anyways. But once you're like, ooh, I'm kind of saying these things, get your pen and paper, write
mm.
it down.
Okay.
And the exercise that I have people do is acknowledge it, identify it, and then what we want to do is challenge it. So, like
Mm,
if you say, I can't do anything right, pause.
right.
Is it true, or have I done this before? So, I can't do anything right. Did you tie your shoes today?
Okay. Okay.
Right? Did
Right.
you drive a car without destroying people, places, and things? Okay. Did you eat food without choking and dying? Like, I know that's like really extreme, but like you do so many things right just because you're on a new venture or something you haven't done in a long time. Like the first time you ever rode a bike, were you good at it?
Mm,
No.
mm,
I
mm.
don't think anybody was, right? When you're trying to change your lifestyle or what have you, you have to understand like this is new. Or if you used to do it like 50 years ago, that was 50 years ago. Like we've got to get back into the rhythm and different things. So just understanding and giving yourself patience and grace to say, like, I'm new at this or I haven't done this in a long time.
Hmm.
So I can't do anything right. That's not true. So then you need to reframe that thought.
Hmm.
I'm open to learning new things. Or I've done many things right before and I'm open to learning new things. So you really just need to switch that thought. In the beginning, you're going to be like, I don't believe these words that I'm saying. Keep
But,
saying them,
but
keep
words.
doing the action, and then the action will start to like turn that into belief. And then making sure that you're doing things like working on the mindset as far as like reading. A great book is it's called Mindset by
Hmm.
Carol Dweck. And
Yeah.
she literally breaks it down to where like a fixed and a growth mindset is. And a lot of us are in fixed mindset. I've been there. And sometimes like we can be like, oh, I have a growth mindset, but there are certain areas in your life where you do have a fixed mindset. So it's like always something to work on. But the first piece is being aware, challenging it, and then making it into a positive.
Mm. I really like how you broke that down in that sense. And I want to see if I can go maybe push it a little bit further too, because um, we have people who are introverted
Mm-hmm.
and people are extroverted. Um, and I want to start with an introvert. Like, how do you suggest that, like, they kind of get out of their shell, if you will? Because all of the tips that you were, like, I'm sitting here, I'm typing in my notes while you're talking, because it's really intriguing. But it just makes me think, like, I'm pretty sure you've probably come across and worked with introverts and extroverts. Like, what are the two different I guess, streams of dynamics there, and how do you, I don't know, encourage one and kind of reel one in, if you will?
So believe it or not, I am the textbook definition of an introvert. And I used to be more on the shy side of introversion. So it's the same.
Okay.
I mean, everything's the same. Like if you're introverted, your work might look a little different than an extrovert when it comes to that. But most of the things that we're talking about is internal work,
Okay.
right? You might be scared to be like, man, I got to go in the gym with all these people. I don't want to be around all these people. Maybe that's the challenge. Maybe your challenge, if
Right.
you're super introverted, is to literally walk yourself in the gym, stand there for 5 minutes, and then leave. Like that might be a big victory for you, depending on
True.
how introverted you are. Extroverts, like a lot of times, they kind of like to like bury stuff over, their personality and stuff, but they just need to make sure that they're doing the internal work too. So I think That is a great question, but it's the same because
It
it's
is the
kind of
same.
internal. It's really
Mm,
just an internal thing. So like your challenges might be different from mine.
hmm.
However, it's all the same thing.
Okay. So then, if we can, Coach Q, let's transition into like eating, and working with folks, because, like you said, we do live in a world today where most of, if not predominantly, what we eat is processed food. I spent some time recently just kind of really digging more into food and reading the back of food packages, which I really never did before. But you see all of this genetically modified, you know, stuff that's being put into our food. And I'm speaking as a person who's a diabetic. So I really I really try to do my due diligence to watch what I eat. Now I'm not gonna lie though, when it comes to, I got that sweet tooth, but I want that piece of pie, or I want that piece of cake, or that I'm having it. But I've learned that I've pushed it to a point where I know that one day a week, maybe a Saturday or Sunday, I'm gonna go ham with it, and then we get back on track.
Mhm.
So that's my coping mechanism, or my mindset right now. But when I look at the food, like, how, because it's really hard, because you, like, before, there was a time, like, most people who know me, I'll tell you, look, don't put no vegetables on my plate. I don't want to see no vegetables. But I love nuts and grains and things like that. But now I found that balance. But how do you, if I was someone new, coming to you for a consultation or to work with you, really help people shift into, really understanding how to look at what they're eating, what they're putting into their body, and how they should be, moving forward to create that healthy lifestyle from what they're putting into their body?
That was great. You kind of said part of it for me. So
Okay.
I am not an elimination diet person.
Okay.
I've tried to do that myself and failed many times because it's like if you're like, okay, you want to eat healthier, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. The only thing in your mind is what? The things
Do
you're not supposed to
it.
do.
Right. I'm gonna
Right.
do it. I'm gonna do
So
it.
like what your like energy goes to is what you're going to focus on. And that's why a lot of us end up going back to the same things or like binge eating on stuff because that's
Mm,
kind of a big thing. So that's why I tell people just incorporate in better stuff in the beginning. That's
mm,
it. If
mhm.
you know you don't eat a lot of veggies, if you like salad, throw in a salad before you eat anything else.
Good point. Good point.
Right? Just do little things in the beginning. Like my students, when they first start, that is literally what I tell them. This is the number of calories that you should have. Outside of that, just put healthier things in. Now, I
Mm.
do have those people like yourself where you're like, I don't a veg. I
Yeah.
don't even want the plate if there's a vegetable on it. I have a friend who eats chicken tenders and French fries. Period. And so in my mind, I'm like, how are you alive? How are things like moving around? But
Right.
I also took into account this issue with people with their nutrition because I'm very good at listening to the parts that people struggle with. Because, like, what I do, you can Google it.
Hmm.
You don't have to work with me, right? But
Right.
I try to bridge that gap and take away any excuse. So I started offering supplementation that is literally concentrated fruits and veggies. So those people who do not want to put vegetables on their plate, or just some people just don't eat a lot. And I don't
Hmm.
think that's necessarily bad depending on the situation, but it helps you to bridge that gap. So even people for me who are mostly plant-based, I'm still deficient in my nutrition because of the way that we harvest our food, soil quality, things of that nature. But
Right.
I have this supplement that helps you to bridge that gap. So you're getting all those micronutrients as if you were eating your daily
Mm.
amounts of fruits and veggies, but really just doing better. Like literally adding in more. If you know you never eat a vegetable, if your goal in the beginning is just to have one serving of vegetables a day,
Okay.
period. Right? The next
Hmm.
week, okay, maybe I'm gonna have a serving of vegetables at 2 of my meals.
That's a
And
big
then you
one.
just grow on it because if we automatically try to just like reach the mountaintop without taking those little steps, like that's when people get discouraged and they're like, well, I can't do this. It doesn't
Yeah.
work for me. And then they kind
Yeah.
of fall off of it because I've been that person. So that's how I like to approach it,
Correct.
and try to help you to be as successful as possible. Because like once you do that, you're like, I can get a veggie in. Let me try this.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try this. And then you start to realize like, oh, well, I didn't have as much food because like I'm more satiated because I had more fruits and veggies, or you start to feel a little better and things like that. So that's how I really approach it with everyone that I work with.
So, you bring up good points too, because I mean, that's pretty much once I came to the realization that I had to change my diet, and I built on that. But you know, how do you stay like? How do you incorporate people like when you say like you're vegetarian, like and you don't eat a lot of meats, and for those who maybe don't, like what are some good supplements, um whether you do or you don't, that people maybe should pay attention, because like you said, people can Google this and all this here, but you're someone who's a professional, this is what you do. I'm curious to know, like, what would be some things that people should be looking at, whether what you consider healthy or not, because you really do need those supplements. And what are some good supplements that maybe people should pay attention to, that maybe we're all not getting? Because I know we don't get it in all our foods and in all of our diets and how we eat. But what are some good supplements you feel that people should pay attention to?
If you're buying like a daily vitamin from like, and I'm not hating on these,
Okay.
so
Okay.
don't come for me.
Okay.
Um, but from like Walmart or, just a local store, a lot of those, your body can't do anything with it.
Mm.
You're literally just putting it in one side for it to come out the other,
Wow.
to
Okay.
be completely honest. So
Okay.
you want to, there are tons of companies. I'm not going to like drop names or anything, but
Right.
like there are tons of companies where you can kind of look into them, and they're more natural things versus the big like horse pill
Mhm.
that is the daily vitamin, right? So just really doing your research to find out what's in them. And like your point to the food, GMO aside, if there's ingredients that you can't even pronounce, we probably shouldn't
Should
be
be eating
eating.
it.
Like,
Mhm.
yes, I am guilty and I do have some of those things, but that should be a very, very small piece of your diet. Like you said, like on the weekend, maybe I have some sweets,
Mhm.
bring it back, right? But it's really, you want whole food. So one tip that I tell my clients, when you're grocery shopping
Mhm.
and you go in the store, one, have a list. Just, well, that's another tangent for another day, but have a list. But literally shop on the perimeter of the store.
Mm.
And what you're going to realize is most things, not everything, if your food has a nutritional label, it's probably not the best for you.
Oh.
So your produce doesn't have a nutritional label. Your meats doesn't have a nutritional label. So those things are sort of on the outside. Yes, there are going to be some things. Now, if you're like, well, I like to have a little rice and things like that, that's fine. But take your little self down the aisle with the rice, grab the rice, and keep it moving.
Hmm.
You don't need to go where the chips and the cookies and all of those different things are. But if you can get a bulk of your food from the perimeter, that is a great place to start. And then if you have like a few little snacks here and there, I think that's okay.
That's interesting, that you, because while you're saying, I had to think about that. Yeah, because I'm picturing myself in the grocery store, like, yeah, like how often do I just hang around the perimeter of the store? Like you're down like every terrible aisle in the store,
Mhm.
and the foods that you're picking up, most of them, I mean, they're not worth a darn for you or for your body. So that I got to remember that. I got to try that, because that's very interesting, and that's challenging for me too. I like challenges, so I'm that guy. So that's a great thing. With
Yeah.
that too, though, it makes me think, about self-doubt. Because in that challenge that you're really talking about, though, for some people, there could be self-doubt and like, man, can I even do this? Right. So when it comes to dealing with like maybe the self-doubt piece, for some people, um, I don't want to say what do you recommend, but like what can you use as somebody who's a supportive person or trying to help a person to help them increase their confidence, if you will, in themselves?
So, like we talked about before, those negative thoughts,
Hmm.
that's one of them.
That's one of them. Okay.
That's it. Like you're
Okay.
literally doubting, oh, I can't do this. Identify it.
Uh,
Ask yourself,
okay.
is it true?
Okay.
And we're going to switch it around. But another thing that you can do is you have to understand, like we talked about, if you're new to this,
Mm-hmm.
you are not going to be great in the beginning, and you need to accept that and understand it is a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
We all have to learn things. And like, even with your job, people who work their jobs just say like 5+ years. You've hit
Mm-hmm.
that window to where you can probably do that job in your sleep, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But when you first started, you had to think about it. You had to remember things. You had to work at it. You put in extra hours. It's the exact same thing.
True.
It's just with your
Yeah.
health and fitness.
That is so true. You really got me just going because you're right. Remember when I first started, I've been there 12 years, 13 years, and I do it in my sleep. It's just
Mhm.
like, yeah, okay, but playing it back in my mind those first couple of years, it's like, do I really have this? Do I really? I mean, I know what I'm doing, right? Like you looking at yourself like, yeah, I
Right.
know, right? Right? You do, right? So yeah, you're 100% right in that aspect. And I just want to, have a little fun at the moment because it just makes me think there was a couple of off the wall things. For you and your profession, if you could have, let's say, dinner, with any historical figure, who may be known for their confidence, who would you want to have dinner with and why?
That is a great question.
Mhm.
I'm not going to say necessarily for the confidence, but Martin Luther King Jr. pops in my mind because
Wow.
there's a quote I use of his all the time. And it's not really like about the confidence, but it's about sort of what we're talking about in that I'm sure with what he was doing that he was terrified most of the time.
Mm, mm,
But he stepped up and he did it anyway.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, no, it probably didn't end the way he wanted it to. However, everyone knows who he is. He
Mm,
left a mark to kind of set things up for everyone else. And so I would love to hear sort of like that self-talk, you know.
mm,
There are certain days he's
mm.
like, they just threw a brick through my window. You think people, but like there had to be something underlying there that helped him to sort of push himself forward. And that's what I try to do every day. I try to step through that fear wall
Mm,
every single day. And all of us have it. And it could be if your fear is like, if you're like, this is just such a little thing, I don't know why I can't get over it, it's yours. It
mm.
doesn't have to look like mine. It doesn't have to look like MLK's. Like it's
Right.
your fear wall. If your fear wall as an introverted person is like, I hate walking into stores by myself.
Mm.
Take yourself into the store,
Yeah.
literally walk right inside of the door. You gotta go
Yeah.
anywhere, count to
Yeah.
5, and then walk out. And guess what? You stepped through that wall today. Did you die? Did you
Mm,
get hurt? Did
no.
anyone else get hurt? No, right?
No.
So then the next day you'd be like, ooh, maybe I can try
Mm.
it for 6 seconds. Maybe I can try it for
Absolutely.
10. So it's just pushing yourself through whatever it is that's holding you back. Because if you've ever done anything scary, when you get done with it, how do you feel?
True.
Right?
True.
Like it's like
True.
I felt unstoppable. What else can I do? And like it's scary in the moment, but once you get through it, you're like, oh, it wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad. I
Mhm.
love that. And and you talk about, that too, where you're pouring in a lot into others, working with them through their mindset, uh health, lifestyle. Who's pouring into Coach Q though? When Coach Q, because I mean you're human too,
Yeah.
and you have these same struggles. Like who's pouring into Coach Q when she needs it?
So this is a really big thing for me, and this is a part of your self-care. This is one of the spokes on the wheel, right? So
Right.
one of them is to have your people, your tribe.
Mm, mm,
And this is a piece that is very hard for people because if people don't elicit those sort of higher vibrational emotions, happiness, joy, calmness, things of that nature in your life, if people are constantly making you angry or agitated, those are not your people.
mm,
Now, I say that to say some of those people who make you feel those low vibrational things are going to be family and friends you've had for a long time.
mm,
And what
mm.
you have to do is learn how to set boundaries. And that is like people would
Hard.
rather go to the gym and work out for 5 hours a day versus set these boundaries with people.
Right.
And I've done this and I continue to do this. Now, if you're like, but it's my mom or dad, you can love and respect mom and dad
Mm-hmm.
from a distance.
Mm, mm.
Yes, you're probably going to see them on holidays, but like if it gets to the
Wow.
point to where you're stirred up, it's time to go.
Mm,
So just going back to the question is really like I'm around my tribe, my people, my friends, my family that are supportive. And when I'm down, I have conversations with them or I have a coach.
okay.
So I go to my coach and I really just bring up those things that I struggle with. So I mean, everyone needs someone, but the biggest thing and the easiest way to do it is to have your tribe around you. And the older I get, I realize my tribe is like shrinking, but I absolutely love that. We don't need like hundreds of people around us because most of them don't have the best intentions for us anyways, but you really just want those people that you know in your heart of hearts care about you, support you, want the best for you, and there's no like underlying connotation there that they're trying to bring you down or anything, but just finding your tribe, confiding in them, or getting a coach, sometimes a therapist, like whoever it is that you need to bring in to deal with whatever it is you're struggling with. That's sort of what I recommend people do.
Mm. I like how you say that. And, I don't know, some of us, old school, new school. We don't, so because I've had this conversation offline with other people, and some people don't believe in it. Like, look, I came up, and I'll speak for myself personally. Look, I came up. Look, deal with it. And it was, that, and we've transitioned as a society. And I want to say though, I do believe that especially in our culture, in our community, that there's nothing wrong with therapy. Therapy should be sought after, and if you really need it, go get it. And I only speak for that because, again, I grew up in a time where coming up, boy, what's wrong with you? Or boy, ain't nothing wrong with you. Just
Mm-hmm.
go, but then you grow and you change. And I've gone to therapy and I've used it. It's helpful. But how because I want to read, because you talked about the tribe and people's tribe. Then if I was to use some of what you said, your tribe then can probably change every year because you grow. Hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
I hope we're growing. So then your tribe technically would and should change every year, or change as you grow. Now, I get my question with that though is, how well does because sometimes your tribe, these people don't know you, like they don't know you at all. So like, how do you even bring in that reserve, like, or that resolve? Because like now it is a whole new thing that you have to kind of go through with the mindset and the energy to kind of build again. So like, how difficult is that when you're constantly growing and evolving and kind of put into the same situation over again, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Great
Hmm.
question. So, for me,
Hmm.
anyone who is in my circle needs to be doing the work that I'm doing to an extent.
Mm.
So, we're all growing, right?
Hmm.
But to that point, yes, there are going to be people who fall out of your life. And I always say this, there are people who were meant to be in your life for a season,
Mm. Mm.
like, period. It could be a relationship, it could be friendships, it could be family. And when we constantly just like hang on
Mm.
to people we're dragging behind a car, hanging on, like all you have to do is let go. That's really like the part for me is understanding that like you will know and you feel when
Mm.
someone's time is up in your life. And like it's never fun.
Right, right, right.
However, you just have to, that's why it's really good to be, the big thing for me is being present,
Mm.
enjoying right now.
Right,
Anxiety is really worried about things that are going to happen or may not happen. Depression is what happened in the past.
right.
Okay. But if we are right here, right now, you and I are having a conversation, I'm enjoying this time.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
having great conversation. We're learning things. But if I'm like trying to talk to you, but I'm thinking about what I'm going to eat for breakfast tomorrow, like I'm not really like here and engaged, right? But
Right.
if it comes to a point to where say we're really good friends and then one day it just doesn't connect, I have to be okay and grateful for the times that we had and that I experienced with you, and that I think we can learn from literally anyone. I don't care if you're 5 or 95, like I can learn something from you.
Mm-hmm.
So really just understanding why is this person in my life? And at the time, if things are great and you're like, I don't really know, just enjoy them. Like if
Mm.
they're supposed to be in your tribe. So that's how I would answer that for sure.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Mogul TV Global Network family. Yes, be present in the moment, and that's key. That's key, and you know uh, that resonates with me in a way because I've learned to grow. Because there was a time I wouldn't be in the moment. Like I sometimes just be done. And I don't know if that's part of the Taurus nature. A lot of times when we done with things, we done with things. Like there's no going back. Now I've learned though, like and again, being present as your circle grows, though, like sometimes though, do you find or have you been in a situation with people where sometimes it's needed to reach back for you to be able, I don't know, either get closure or to be able to even grow and continue to grow and be able to move forward? Because sometimes that past, even though you maybe you didn't get the closure or you just shut the door, but you needed at that space in time for you to be able to grow. And that, do you find that maybe that happens sometimes when you're dealing with clients?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a big difference in, hey, I kind of let this go or this fell off or what have you. I'm growing, but like there's something that keeps popping up in my mind. Like an example for me is past relationships that just ended.
Right.
And I'm a person that I'm like, let's at least just have a conversation for closure. What happens? Sometimes you're just not going to get the closure you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then sometimes you're going to need to, especially if it's like with someone that you knew for like many, many years.
Right.
Maybe it's like as you're like unpacking stuff or things that are coming up for you, maybe it's like, maybe you want to go back and ask a question. And I think that's okay versus still hanging on to like the thing that happened, the emotion, all of the things that sort of bring that vibration down. So like, yeah, for sure. If you're in a healing journey and you just want some answers, if you reach out to that person, they don't answer, let it go, move on. Because like all you're going to do is like go back into that space because you're trying so hard. Like if you feel like you are swimming upstream like a salmon, that ain't it.
That ain't it. That ain't it. That ain't it. That's not it right there.
Yeah, but if you reach out and like people answer and it just comes with ease, whether the conversation is easy or not, that's different. But like if it comes with ease, yes, go back and get that closure. But if it's like you're chasing them and trying to get them to have a conversation and it's bringing you down, like you just have to be okay with not having that closure and just understanding who you are and where you're trying to go.
I love that. I really do. That's a great piece of advice. And like our friends over at Mogul TV Global said, sometimes you just want it to be over, and over and done. And Mogul TV is asking that I don't know if this is Tamika or Alicia joining us tonight, but thank you. What about closure? Happening when they leave. What if the closure we seek brings more grief than we expected? Now, that's a great question.
It is. If it brings more grief, grief can be loss of anything, right?
Right.
I literally lost my job. And outside of the financial piece, like if you were there for a long time, that's grieving. Like if you're learning new information, yeah, some things might bubble up for you.
Right.
But if things are coming up for you, that means they need to come out. So I think if you are starting to feel that type of emotion, now, if you're in the middle of the conversation to get that closure and they're just bringing you down because they're tearing you down or just, you know what I mean? Like sort of demeaning you, that's completely different. We should probably just shut that off. But if you are indeed like just getting new information that you didn't know,
right,
or you're having to process, that's just naturally part of the process. Because there's going to be there, for me, it was like a whole year of just dealing with stuff.
Wow.
Things just coming up. Okay, I think I'm over this. Like I had a couple of days and then boom, I wake up and I'm like, why do I feel this way? And it's because it could take time. You know what I mean? So like that question is great, but like sometimes, yeah, some more things are going to come up, but it needs to, because a lot of times what we do is just stuff all this down. I don't want to deal with that. Nope.
Yeah.
But it will come back up in some form or fashion. That's why a lot of people deal with lots of anger issues or, just whatever emotions that they carry around that's in a lower vibrational state. So like that could happen, but as long as you're continually doing the work to deal with it, however you need to unpack it,
right,
and get rid of it. We don't need to put it back in the suitcase. Just deal with it and move on.
I love, you said it a couple of times throughout the night, vibrations and really getting in tune. And that's a big piece of, your coaching style and consulting. Like when you meet people, because I'm an energy person, I'm a vibe person. And I've said this before, I don't know, it's been enhanced somewhat, I almost lost my life 10 years ago. And I found after I went through that whole journey and that whole process, coming out of the hospital, like I could smell the blades of grass. I still smell them to this day. I see the bluest of blue sky in the sky. When I meet people, I see an aura. Like how important, like Like, how do people really get into tune with these vibrations and the elements? Because they really do speak, and they
Mhm.
really do, show you a way or a passage or just a way to feel and be better about yourself, which in turn, in my opinion, helps you be better, when it comes to life and the people around you and being in the community. How big or how important is that? And could you talk about that, that piece? Because you've said it several times tonight. Now, every time you get into something, I want to come back to it, but like I'm to ask that right now because I've heard you say it several times tonight.
So that brings us back to being present.
Okay.
And a big piece of that is being authentic. Authentic, I literally had this conversation at another talk I did this weekend, but it really just means being natural or being you. So, example, when I was younger, I had friends, we'd go out, turn up, do all the things over here. And I had friends that were, trying to build careers and different things over here.
Okay.
And my friends that were like, hey, you always talk about like your other friends, like you should invite them to whatever event. And I was like, nope. Now, if you can't merge your friends, I'm not saying everyone has to be best friends and different things, but if you can't go to a central event and people can just like vibe together, like that's a problem.
True.
It's because you're being a different person over here and being a different person over here. When for me, I felt like I was somewhere in the middle.
Right.
So if you feel like you have to put on a mask or be a different person here or there, like even at work, if you're a completely different person at work than you are at home. Now, I'm not saying like professionalism, like purpose that right now, but like you can still be yourself in a professional setting. So it's really like uncovering like, who am I? First of all, and then once you know who you are and you're comfortable in that, you're doing your work and you're being present, kind of what you said, like that experience really like shaped you. You were like, I'm awake now. There are more important things than what I was worried about or what I was doing or what have you. And then you literally paid attention to it because all of those things were around you all the time.
They were.
It's just that you woke up.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Well, I did. I did.
That's what it is. It's really just understanding the biggest thing is be yourself, because society has a way of just shaping us. And we have to be okay with like breaking free from that and understanding that's okay. And also being present while we're doing that work. Right. And then all of these other things that we talk about, like vibrations, and that can be vibe, energy, like what have you, like your soul will speak to you. Like if you've ever been in a situation where you've been around people or you go to a place and you're like, so I don't even know how to put it into words, but like something's not, you feel something's not right.
Yeah.
Listen to that.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10, if you go into that environment, you're going to be like, I shouldn't have gone because whatever happened. So like, if you were like pushing that off, which I did when I went out with friends and stuff, I'd be like, I feel like I shouldn't. And my friends, oh, it's okay. Just take a shot or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you just sort of push through that. You're pushing against everything that's like trying to align you with who you are. And that's okay. But that's when we really don't see the grass that's greener,
right?
The blue sky, like hear what our bodies and minds are trying to tell us. So well, that answered your question.
No, you did, because it's so true. It's so true. And I want to go back real quick because Tamika had dropped in a question where she's asking, is there a proper way to end relationships when you're just mentally drained and done? So I think that's another great question. Thank you, Tamika, for that.
Yeah, I love that question. That is a question for you. There are some people, for instance, one of my past relationships, it was just like to even pick up the phone. Like, here we go. And if it's, especially if it's like abusive and abuse doesn't always have to be physical, right? But if it's something that's constantly tearing you down, sometimes you just have to like ghost.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's just what it is because if you try to be an adult and have this conversation, it's going to turn into a big thing, which you know what I mean, and like it might pull
Mm-hmm.
you back in. Sometimes you just might have to just silently say goodbye, especially when people keep it because people know what they do.
Right.
I know what they're doing. So sometimes you might have to say goodbye. But for me, I try to have an open and honest conversation about how I'm feeling or what's happening or what's bothering me. And if people are giving you pushback and different things, that's really, really, really when it comes back to your tribe. If those people are not receptive to that, like however you need to like end that, end it. If they're mad or pissed off about it or what have you, that's their problem because you have to put yourself first. Like that's the biggest thing that I help people do. You have to be first because it's like the airplane example, right? They tell you when the masks fall down, put yours on first before you help someone else. Because if you're passed out on the seat, you're no good to nobody, including yourself. So that question is really just however you feel it needs to be done. If you're one of those people where I'm like, I just want to cut people off, do it. If it's going to bring you joy, do that. And I'm not saying you have to be like nasty or ugly about it. But like, silently stepping away is such a great way. Now that grief question, that's probably going to come up and you're going to be like, well, I feel bad. I should probably don't do it. Just let it go because those people are meant to be in your life for a season.
You hit on the head to make it like she said, like Coach Q said, stop being so concerned about how others feel about what you're doing, and that's really a big piece too, because a lot of us, right, to make it now stop now, users will always find a way to use you, and they will, and that really leads to because like so many of us are giving. I know I'm a giver, and I know Tamika's a giver. You're a giver, like that's really difficult to turn off. And that goes back to your boundaries and things. But, you know, is that something like, because I know you're big on journaling and things like that, like, or looking in the mirror, looking at yourself, like, are those ways that you really have to reinforce yourself to get out there? And like to me, it says, stop these users from finding a way to use you and put your foot down because like so many people I know it's hard. So like, is that one of the ways or a couple of ways you suggest people kind of stepping up to the plate for themselves?
I love this because especially my people pleasers out there, this is the one. So when it comes to being a giver, because especially people who have servant hearts, right? There's a difference, and the difference. I have a friend, she loves to give.
Yeah.
People try to give to her. We've had this conversation. She feels like she has to give things back, different things. But if you have someone like that that's like going through a hard time and you're like, I want to give you money, time, energy, what have you. And they're like appreciative and you can tell there's just love and great energy there. Those are the people you give to. Now, if you are giving to someone that's like, can I have $20? Can I do this? Can I have that? And they're constantly asking for things and you sort of feel like this, like, what do they want this time? Or like a lower vibrational energy. We got to stop because there has to come a point. And I understand like people hit lows, like I was fired from my job. So I had to learn with being okay, like asking for help in different things, but they're like the people who were genuinely like, I just need your help right now type thing. But if they're constantly just
give it, can you give? Can you give? Can you give? Hey, let me hold something. Let me hold something. Let me hold something. Yeah, I got you.
So you can't like that. That's like a you question. Like, when are you going to get tired of getting used up? Like it's like the paper towel that you wipe your face with and you fold it and you fold it and you flip it over and you fold it and you fold it. Like how many more times can we do this? So like, you really just have to understand the difference between the people that you're giving your help to. And then another thing is like, if you struggle with that, like, yes, the journaling, but this is going to get a lot of people. You have to sit with yourself by yourself and like sit with yourself. No music, no TV, put your phone away, like literally just having solitude time. I promise you lots of things are going to come up for you. And then that's the problem with some people, is that they're like, oh, all this stuff is coming up. Never mind. Where's my phone? Turn this
Right.
down. And you want to distract yourself from that. But that is a big way to help you. Like if you've ever like had a situation in life where you're like, I need the answer to this question, God, universe, whoever you want to say. If you've ever just sat, you may not get that answer right away, but you'll get it pretty quick within the next week or so, depending on what the question is. So that's what I recommend, is just one, knowing the difference, two, knowing when you're tired of being used up, and three, just sit with yourself.
I mean, so some people, like I was just, man, Tamika just hit it. So some people don't know how to be alone with themselves. But I think of it a step further, because I don't mind the solitude. I actually enjoy it because it helps me at times. And I don't know, I find as I've transitioned through life, sometimes I need to be alone. Sometimes I feel like something is happening and I don't know what it is. And sometimes that solitude gives me time to work to try to identify whatever this message is. And usually within that message, though, this has to be some type of preparation. And that preparation usually starts with me. So I don't know if that's going to be my time, my energy, my financial, but you have to sit in that space and mentally prepare yourself for whatever is coming. And I find that I need that. And, I want to go back. Yeah, it does. It really does bring clarity. And Tamika had brought up something that, I thought was pretty powerful. Always the person who everybody leaned on or called for help. And Tamika, I'm going to put you out there. It sounds like, this is a personal, and you had to learn how to let others give to you and support you. And that's huge, because I think so many of us have a hard time doing that. And again, when you move forward, and I'm curious, I see Tamika and I speak to her and I watch her greatness and her magnitude grow. Like, what is a tip or a word of encouragement that maybe you, Coach Q, would tell someone who's always that person that's being leaned on for help? When it's okay to ask for help. What tip or how would you direct them to kind of work through to get to a point to where they build up the courage and the strength and the mindset to be able to go ahead and ask others for help?
For me, I've always been this person. So my dad was a military guy. I was sort of raised like a boy. My mom had to remind him that I was a girl. But especially in the South, males, you don't show emotion. You do all this stuff for yourself. You don't ask for help. So that's really how I was. And one big transition for me, I was fired from my job, as I mentioned. And I was like, okay, so how am I going to do this? And this has been a journey. And this is something that I'm still going through. But that really was a big lesson. I think that was God, universe, whoever took a 2x4 and was like, right, I'm going to make her be in a situation to where she has to ask for help. Now, if you are like, I can't ask for help because that means I'm a failure, because of that, going back to our previous conversation, those are those negative things that we need to reframe. Now, what I want you to think about, in like earlier civilizations, there was never a time where people were like by themselves, in the sense of like have a house by yourself or, supporting yourself. Everybody was in a community.
True.
My strengths are different than your strengths, are different than Tamika's strengths, right? So we all work together to make things work.
Right.
And I believe that's how things should be. And then that community were people that were in your tribe, hence the word tribe.
Tribe.
So that's the biggest thing. If you're like struggling, if you're like, okay, why don't I want to ask for help? Ask that question. Whatever bubbles up is the part you need to work on. But sometimes we just need it, and it is okay. And if you've come across, because this has happened to me, I've asked for help and people have like shot you down or like talked down to you or what have you, they gotta go.
Yeah.
That's not them. And I know that kind of like bruises, the ego, especially when you're trying to be vulnerable anyway, but just understand like what they have going on has nothing to do with you.
True.
Like they're just projecting whatever is internally that they're not working with onto you. So making sure that you are going to your tribe to ask for help. Like that's the biggest piece I could tell anybody is just work on whatever's bubbling up for you and then making sure you're going to the right people.
Mm, I love that. I love that piece. And again, thank you to me. That great question.
Mhm.
Great point. But I want to go again off the wall with an off the wall question while we're sitting here in this space. And if 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 confidence were a flavor for Coach Q, what would that flavor be if no one had ever experienced it? If you got a client that never experienced confidence, where and you could explain to them, man, it's like this chicken, whatever, or whatever it is. Like, what flavor would it be that you would share with someone that you're coaching?
I love your questions, by the way. I do.
Thank
This is
you.
like these are like one of my favorite things to do, and I love when they're natural and it makes me think. And I'm gonna this is like, and I love that my brain's on point today. My favorite fruit is pineapple,
Okay.
and we're gonna say pineapple.
Okay.
The reason I'm going to say pineapple is for the taste. Most of the time, it's very sweet,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you've ever felt confident, and I mean you are feeling yourself, you dress nice, you look good, you smell good. Like nobody can, no matter what anybody says to you, right? Top level confidence, it's sweet,
I love that.
right?
Right.
But there
Mm-hmm.
are days where you're not going to feel that highest of high of confidence.
True.
And sometimes it's a little work, it's
Mm-hmm.
prickly. It's
Mm-hmm.
little prickly things on the outside, or maybe that sour piece that you get. But deep down, knowing I got this, I know I'm supported. I know I'm loved, even though my emotion may not feel it today. That would be how I describe it as a flavor.
I love that. That's great. Sometimes we need to hear these type of things, and the positivity of the word that come out of your mouth, any words, have power and they have strength. And I'm a true believer of the more you can speak positivity into the world, the better place we will be. And I really enjoy talking to you because you really have a way of really sharing, things that, and you make it simple. Because I think a lot of times we as human beings, we make things so difficult
Mhm.
for ourselves, and we really don't need to. And you've been a breath of fresh air tonight. We're coming to the back end of this amazing conversation, and before we go though, I want to give you a moment. Like, is there anything that you would like to share, with us? Any nuggets or anything that I didn't ask you this evening that you'd like to leave with our audience?
I mean, we really touched on kind of the spokes of the wheel. As I said before, I didn't want to throw out a bunch of like terminologies and things because you just want to keep it simple,
Hmm.
right? So, if you can take nothing else away from this today, is understanding that the way to have that healthy, happy life is to put yourself first.
Mm,
Like, no matter how it's going to make other people feel, no matter how hard it's going to be, because in the end, that's when we literally can live from a place of happiness versus just having those happy moments. And the best way to start doing that is your health.
that's
Eat
right.
better, get some movement in, and then making sure that you're doing that internal shadow work. And I know that is like the hardest part. But
Hmm.
once you start doing it, you'll get into a rhythm of it. You'll understand how you need to recharge. You'll understand that you might need to step away. You might need to do the fluffy stuff, right? To sort of get through it. But when you do that, like you are going to be so much lighter
Hmm.
and you are going to really step into your power. Like that's the
Mm.
best way I can put it. Because when I started working through my stuff and got over like some deep, dark, dirty things, like I feel like honestly like powerful and like
Mm.
that's something that you can like define, but like, you don't really know what that means until you're in it.
Mm. True that. True that.
So
I
that's
love that.
okay.
Thank you so much. And like like Tamika said, put you first.
Mhm.
And it's okay to put you first.
Yep.
And you have to really, we have to work through that struggle to really know it's okay that I'm first, and some things will just be secondary uh in our life. And You can put them however you want. The Lord first, however you want to do it. But me here on this plane, uh, it definitely I'm first. Yes, I love it, Tamika. And before we go, Coach Q, I can't let you leave without sharing, your social media, information. I want those who are here tonight enjoying this conversation, but also for those who watch this on the playback to be able to go ahead and reach out to you, support you, go out and get yourself, look, and I don't mean this to be funny. If you need some help, whether it be, with you, your confidence, your lifestyle, your health, get a healthy lifestyle, Coach Q is the person for you. So make sure you go ahead and you write this information down, ladies and gentlemen, and reach out and support.
Yeah, so I'll be sure to put this in comments too. But on Instagram, the confidence maker, that's my handle. My DMs are always open. And so if you literally have questions, I give free consultations because I don't work with anyone without doing a consultation, just so I can make sure that we vibe and that I can actually help you. Facebook, Quiche Fletcher. That's how you find me there. And then theconfidencemaker.com. Will have all of my things on it, including a phone number. So that's how you can find me. And I'll be sure, like I said, to put it in comments too for the people watching the replay.
Oh, most definitely. Like you said, Tamika, if you need help, get the help you need with Coach Q. We dropped in her IG and we'll do the same thing. We're going to put in all her information in the show notes. Go out, man, get yourself some support if you need it. Super talented, super helpful, super wonderful, and we can run this back. We can have you come back. We can break this down into multiple conversations. There's so much that we can dive into. We really just touched the surface, and maybe we'll make this a series, especially coming out of the holidays.
Yeah.
We coming into the new year, like we talked about earlier. It's when people are gonna realize, oh, we have this new president, and so many different things that are probably going to be flying around and floating around. You know, 2025. We'll stay in touch and we'll talk. Uh, but there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another live episode of Two Mics Up. I'm your man, Dame DNYDC, humble host. And I want to shout out the network. Thank you, Tamika and the Mogul Global TV Network, my home for Two Mics Up, Two Mics Up Business Corner, and my new channel, the Infusion TV channel. You can catch us, man. Look, you got to go ahead and download this app. And hey, look, they're gonna realize, but sometimes you got to tell people, Tamika, I'm learning. You put me first. We putting Mogul TV, we putting Two Mics Up, we putting Dame and all that. We putting it first. So ladies, go out, check us out. That we have something for everyone. All positive programming. Matter of fact, the number one network for positive programming, if you didn't know, 45 plus countries and growing. And just do what we do. And yes, follow Infusion TV. Download the app on the Mogul TV Global Network while it's free, because we growing. And after a while, when things start busting, you got right, right, exactly. You got to have the pay. So get it while it's free. But I thank you all. It's been another fun evening. And like we do at the close of each and every show, I'm going to leave you all with a couple of things. May you all stay safe, stay blessed. Mike's out.